Chord melody, like you hear it from Joe Pass or Barney Kessel, is a beautiful part of playing jazz guitar. And it's a lot of fun to play a piece as a complete arrangement of the song, but it's also difficult, and when you're playing then you're really busy with the chords, the extensions, and just keeping the whole thing going. And there are actually quite a few things that can really ruin your chord melody, but there are also some things that you can add to make it sound better, and actually they also make it easier to play. So let's have a look at some of my chord melody secrets that probably most people use. The basic way to get started playing a song as a chord melody arrangement is to get the melody on the top strings, so mostly on the B and E strings, but of course occasionally you want to go to the G string. This is just because you want to be able to fit a chord under it, and that gets difficult if the melody is too low. Let's take the first part of Body and Soul. Now I want to add chords under this, and I'm going to use shell voicings for that. And I'm going to kind of split the guitar into 3 string sets. So we have the melody on the top strings, and then the chord part on the middle strings, and the bass notes on the 2 lower strings. And that works really well with shell voicings, because here you have, for instance, a D minor 7 like this one. So the root is on the 5th string, and then the 3rd and the 7th are on the middle strings. The same if I have the version that's with the bass note on the 6th string, we have A minor like this. So here, bass, and then 7 and 3rd. If I apply this to Body and Soul, you get something like this. First just a chord, then the melody, and then I'm adding the B flat 7 under it, and then we need to go to this B flat, and then I can add the same E flat minor voicing under that to A flat 7. You basically add chords when you can, and mostly on beats 1 and 3 to just make it sound clear where the chords and the harmony is and where the timing is. Now there is one thing that you always need to get right, otherwise your chord melody just won't make any sense. This is something that I say to students very often if I give feedback on chord melody arrangements. The melody is not clear enough. It simply doesn't work if it sounds like this. Luckily, this is not incredibly difficult to fix. The first step is to realize that it's a problem, and there's an app for that. It's the camera in your phone, so that you can record yourself playing and then listen while you pay attention to whether you clearly hear the melody and actually also how it's phrased. Let's take this D minor 7. Now just try to play it slowly, maybe try to play the melody alone. So first you just want to, like this is the note we want to hear, right? So. And then you just kind of want to listen for whether it sounds like this melody note with something under it, but something supporting it, not so that this is too loud, right? When I'm working on this, I don't really try to play this loud because then that doesn't sound that nice, that's not a nice tone. I tend to go more with trying to get this part to be as soft as possible and then work with it like that. Now you may be asking, well, I don't actually play with my fingers, I play with a pick, and that's of course completely wrong. You shouldn't do that. No, of course, you can practice it the same way there. So if you take the D minor 7, now here you just want to learn how to strum that and then make this note the loudest. I guess you would just do it like this. And again, the trick is to make the first part of that strum a little bit softer. It takes some work, but it's definitely worthwhile. You don't want to play the melody as if you're a robot or guitar pro. Ideally, you want to really let that sing, and for some guitarists, that is more important than having the chords in there, which is actually pretty clear if you listen to more modern guys like Bill Frisell or John Scofield. They are both only adding chords when there's room for it, and they are really focusing on getting the melody across, which I think sounds beautiful. And if you start playing your chords like this, then that's going to get a lot easier. We call it chord melody, which almost suggests that the chord is more important than the melody, but as you just heard, then that is definitely not the case. The way the basic recipe for a chord melody arrangement works, then you'll get the chords on the heavy beats, and especially when the chords change. But it can actually be a lot more interesting for the listener if you open that up for a few reasons. Phrasing. Playing a chord and the melody at the same time actually makes it more difficult to really phrase the melody. If you separate the melody and add the chord later, it's often easier to really get it to stand out and give it the right dynamics and let it have enough attention. Variation and flow. The next situation where this is really useful is if you have a long note on that first chord, because this is pretty boring. And for this next example, I'm actually playing exactly the same chords, but it's still a lot more interesting. The problem that you heard in the first example with Stella was that there was a long note in the melody and nothing was happening. But very often you can easily add a passing chord or two to make things flow a little bit easier, just that something is happening. Now, if you listen to All the Things You Are, so here's a basic version of it. Notice though that I did add a tritone 2/5 because I just think that sounds really beautiful in this song. But there's really not a lot happening in those first two bars with the long A flat and the long D flat. So you can add some tritone substitutions as passing chords, like going from F minor 7 to B7 down to the B flat minor 7. And then from here we go to E7, which then takes us to the E minor 7, A7. That sounds beautiful. Check it out. And I'm just adding some dominants and tritone substitutions that resolve into the next chord in the progression. And that's a great first place to look. Chords that resolve as dominants or as tritone substitutions down a half step. And of course, still fit the melody. But there are more options, like this diatonic passing chord, which is an E half diminished in Days of Wine and Roses. Diminished chords can also be really effective and easy to work with, especially the dominant diminished chords, like this C sharp diminished and also F sharp diminished that I'm using on polka dots and moonbeams. Essentially, I'm just looking at the chord where I'm going to and then looking if I can fit a diminished chord under that melody note. But there are more ways to keep things moving along besides using passing chords. So about that Barney Kessel clip, because I just want to talk about it even though it's completely off topic.
Vad heter?
Barney Kessel.
It is in a way a piece of Scandinavian cultural history. It's from the 70s and it's Swedish. It could just as easily have been Danish or Norwegian, I think.
You've written a very heavy book.
And it's a great example of how they were really trying to make television for the people with real content. So in fact, this television program is a guitar course.
Be a little more adventurous.
And everybody is trying their best to make it work, to make it interesting. And it is
1, 2, 3, 4.
really awkward. I'll link to it in the video description. Here's a fairly basic example of the beginning of Stella by Starlight, where I have a fill going from E half diminished to A7. And you'll notice that the fill is really ending in the A7 chord, which is something that I think always makes for a smooth transition and really sounds nice. But you can also incorporate fills that mix single notes and chords, like this example on Body and Soul, and try to notice the B7 that is used as sort of a suspension to delay the B flat 7. This is about really knowing the song and then just focusing on a spot in it and explore what you can do using arpeggiation, passing chords and fills. One of my favorites when it comes to chord melody is Bill Frisell, who somehow gets away with mixing traditional chord melody that you might hear with Joe Pass and a more modern approach with harmony from Bill Evans and even borrowing from styles like bluegrass and blues. But it still all works and it's kind of magical that he can get it all to melt together and become incredibly beautiful music. Check out this video on how he works with Days of Wine and Roses.